We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, and welcome to Talk Up Your Biz. I'm Jean Noel Bassior, and my co-host sitting in for Susan Levin this week is Maurice Domino. Hi, Maurice. Yes, I love it when you co-host the show. It's really
I love it too.
It's a burst of positive energy. I stole that from our first guest, Nairobi James, who is out there speaking about the formula for turning negative situations into positive ones. I could have given you a few this week, Nairobi, and turning them into a burst of positive energy. And Lucia Galante Johnson will join us later. She is a stress management and corporate wellness consultant who helps you reduce stress right at your desk. So if you're boiling over right now, just hold on. Help is on the way.
Exactly.
So we have some, we always start out the show, Susan and I, when we created the show, this is a show to help you get out there and talk up your business, speak about your business, and you're the expert. You're the expert in what you do and what you know, but a lot of people don't realize that,
and
right?
I think that's what a lot of people feel, that, when we're talking about Talk Up Your Biz, that you're the expert in it. People kind of take a back seat to that. They wonder, am I really the expert?
Right.
What do I have to offer? I've been doing this job for 20 years. Everyone knows how to do this.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting way to look at it, yes, but I love what Susan Levin says, that, speakers, authors, yes, but also business executives, trade people. You've been doing it for so many years. You have a vehicle to share with people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everybody makes chocolate chip cookies, right? But I mean, Amos went like, well, I really make really good ones, and Mrs. Field,
and
the
Mrs.
same
Fields,
thing.
Marie Callender's, everyone.
Everybody bakes pies, right?
Exactly.
But somebody's got to step out there and go like, well, I really bake the best pie, and it deserves to be out there, and so. But how do you get to that place where you believe in yourself enough to have that confidence?
Well, I'm sure we're going to hear from one of our guests today in Nairobi about that. It's that inner game. It's that, we have to reset the mindset. And Susan Levin had a fantastic blog just about this, about how to become an expert, 10 key questions to ask to unlock your expertise. And, I really love this blog post because it does ask you those questions, and it really hits to the root of it. And for me, the one that really struck a nerve with me, and nerve because it was reflective of me, is question number one. It's the one of what comes easily to you. And I find it amazing. Here I am. I coach people on how to craft a message, be better public speaking. And I'm thinking after a while, people know this already. I'm not really teaching them anything new. And I love what this blog had to say. Is not only am I teaching them a technique, but I like this interesting parameter. It's my view of it. It's my look at it. So it's a new perspective if you look at it that way.
Exactly. It's your perspective, right? Yeah. And I want to mention this, Susan, I pulled this off her blog site because she gathers these wonderful articles from the web. This one is by Donna Gunter, and I want to give her credit for that. But Susan, posts these, and they're all, if you go to speakerservices.com and then look for blog, click on blog, and you'll see all of these great articles that will help you with your speaking that Susan has collected. So what other ones? Was there anything else that struck you?
Well, I want to, if you don't mind, I'd like to stick with that one about
what
comes easily to you, because, we take for granted what we do. I do believe it. And maybe this is a good question for both our guests, Lucia and Nairobi, in that I'm sure there was a point where they face, and even myself, and even for yourself as an interviewer of celebrities and all that, you feel like I've asked all the questions. They know everything about what they do. But I think if you ask that question, what comes easily to me, well, therefore you are an expert at it, because that definitely comes easier to you, and I'm sure you have a technique or a system or quick tips that will help you to get to the end zone or to the end line faster. So I know people are always looking for ways to do it quicker, faster, better, smarter.
Right. And I think there is that reluctance sometimes to believe in our own expertise. And, this comes up a lot with authors, because when you write a book, sometimes you don't realize it, but you assume a voice of authority. That's what author means. I remind people, but it was, even for me, all of a sudden you're the expert writing the book, or you're the expert going out and speaking. And, like this, Donna Gunter said, just about that first point you mentioned. She said, well, so I was a divorced mother, single mother, and I felt like a failure because, I moved across the country, and then
That's right.
I ended up having to go back and live with my mother. So, and then I was trying to get a business going or something. And she goes, what she saw from that was, well, I'm a failure. And then, though, she didn't see well, there are people out there talking about that. And people willing to listen, right?
Well, not only talking about it, but again, in Donna's case, she was able to pull herself from the ashes like a phoenix and do something.
Right.
And in fact, that's one of the questions she asked: is what are some of the challenges have you gone through, and what have you done to overcome them, overcome obstacles? And let me tell you something. I'm going to say 90% of the people out there are interested, even if they're successful. It's kind of pre-calling it, or people that are on their way of being successful, in that when they're dealing with business, they want the best possible way. Challenges will take us down the blind alley. Challenges will put us behind a roadblock. So it's great listening to others about how did they come over that challenge. So if you have a challenge that you come over, I would start journaling. That's the best technique. Start journaling some of those obstacles, some of those challenges that you've overcome. We made mention of question number 1, which is what comes easily to you.
Right.
And don't take it for granted. People are interested in what you have to offer.
I know, we kind of belittle ourselves, don't we?
We do.
I mean, you coach people in speaking, right?
Yes.
So how to give a presentation.
Right.
But I bet it took you a while to.
Oh, let me tell you something. When I first started, I presented as if it was one sentence. There's no pausing, no inflection, no vocal variety, no nothing. Not
Really?
looking at the audience. I looked at everybody, top of people's heads. That was how I got over that. Looking at people in the face, and then I slowly had to teach myself certain techniques on how to overcome that challenge, because I knew that I had to slow down. I knew that I had to pause. I knew I had to look people in the eye, give eye contact. So what was those tips, those techniques that I've used to help me? And I'm sure other people have tips and techniques, and maybe it's my aspect of it, my perspective of it, and that's why people come to see me, and other people, that have the exact same message as me.
Well, I think with you, what I sense is you're really engaged and excited about what you do. And, a lot of times that's what makes the difference between, speakers, because a lot of people could, speak on about, how to, rollerblade, or how to bake the best chocolate chip cookies or whatever, or how to learn WordPress. But, it's the same information, but the passion and the excitement that you bring to it is often what makes the difference. So that's what I picked that up from.
And definitely, and in fact, Donna has, I think that's number 8 or something. In other words, what comes naturally to you, or what I have here is, what kind of task do you complete at which time just flies quickly.
Yeah.
So it comes easily to you, or you have no recognition. And I think this one is interesting in that, what kinds of tasks do you complete in which time seems to fly? For me, that indicates that you're doing something that you love, that you get lost in the process, in whatever you're working on. And I think that's a strong indicator of that this is something that you love to do.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I think that some people might respond like, oh, well, that's not hard to do.
Right.
I just love it. I do it quickly, so it's not important,
Right.
So that's kind of like the reverse of that, really. So that's why these questions are pretty interesting.
I find this very interesting. I would definitely ask people to check out Susan's blog.
Right.
And go to back with that. It goes. A lot of people say, well, if I do what I love, I can't make money out of it.
Right.
And I would have to disagree. I absolutely love the process of speaking, be it one-on-one or one-on-many. And when I first started, I actually went to one of my mentors and I said, boy, I wish I could make a living at public speaking. And they go, are you kidding me? There's a whole industry in it. So sometimes we're not even aware of what's out there. And as I told one of my coaching clients today, that our doorstep, our storefront is now the world, due to the World Wide Web. And even look at this, talk Up Your Biz, we could be received all over the world here on LA Talk Live. And because of that, I'm going to say this. The numbers are on your side. What the population of the world is, there's going to be somebody who is interested in your message, your service, or your product.
Yeah. And it goes out to the galaxy, too. Just think of all those intergalactic citizens. No, I won't go there.
Do you mean somebody in Pluto might want to craft their $1 million message?
Yeah, radio. Yeah, they might. And that's your new, you like our guest Lucia has kind of rebranded yourself, $1 million message.
That's right, the $1 million message.
You have morphed from the Sicilian mentor, and one day you morphed into the $1 million messenger?
Yes, exactly, because I wanted to reach those people in Cassiopeia, up in the intergalactic. I wanted to reach the corporate sector, which could be a different universe.
Same, yeah.
But speaking, that's a good lead in, or good with this is that, there are people out there that have a message, right, and that people want to know about your business. And I love what Susan says it the best in the whole premise of the show of talk up your biz. That, go out there. You might not be a public speaker, but there's so many various forums that it's not, one that you're from a pulpit and all that, but simple, consultations. I call them informationals that you could set up and really explode your clientele with the simple act of speaker services.
Yeah. Speaker services. One of we actually both of our guests are with speaker services.
See that?
Yeah, funny about that. Now you had something also. You wanted to talk about audience participation.
Yeah, in this whole thing, a lot of people ask me, should I get the audience involved? And I say that back in the silent era and the baby boomers, you could pretty much hit us over the head and just pontificate and just speak at us, but not in the case now because the baby boomers have matured, as well as the Gen Xers and the Millenniums. Now we have to add another element into it, and that's to entertain. So yes, we're informative, but as well as we need to entertain. And probably the best way to keep your audience engaged is with audience participation, asking them questions, having them do exercises and what have you, and to really develop a conversation. And that's the best word I could put for it. How can you develop a conversation with your audience?
And so how do you?
Well, you as if you're speaking to your best friend. When I do my corporate speaking, I do not hold back, acknowledging that the audience is there and putting them to work. I'll say, write this down, or imagine, or close your eyes, go through this scenario. Or it was funny. I'll even get them involved with. I'll ask them, "This is okay. Put down your pens. Now lean forward because I'm going to tell you a secret. Put your hand to your ear, and the super secret is." Google. And again, I get them moving, I get them involved. Even when doing a keynote or an oratory, you have to somehow involve your audience.
And I always I like to start out pretty soon involving them because that makes me feel more comfortable.
Really? Why is that? That's interesting.
Because it feels like a dialogue and a conversation.
Okay.
Because it makes them real to me. And that's just me probably, but because I know that some people could get up in front of a group and I can feel okay and I can feel comfortable, but I think I enjoy it more when it's like I can dialogue with somebody and then it's kind of the way I teach too. It's like interactive. It sets me at ease. I guess I just feel the energy exchange or something.
Yeah, well, you said two key things. That energy exchange, I know that when we get up in front of an audience or even when we're speaking one-to-one, whoever does the speaking becomes contagious. So if you feel that energy, guess what? Your audience is going to be energized. But you said something very interesting in that you said that by conducting or putting them into a dialogue, they seem real to you. Well, conversely, if you're having a dialogue with them, guess what? You will look or seem real, authentic to your audience as well.
That's what I feel. That's very true because I feel it's the quickest way that they can see who I am by how I interact with them, and they can get a better sense of me. And also, I think it's just probably my thing about not liking someone to talk at me for long periods of time. I mean, unless they're fascinating and really interesting, and then it's absolutely fine. But if it's like if I have information to share, then I don't want to be that person that talks at you. It's more my thing.
But I'd be surprised when you said that, when people are talking at me and all that it's okay, I'll let them go. I would guarantee there's little elements, little techniques that you could use that you are engaging them. Simply as listen to this. Imagine if you were. See, those
are good, yeah.
Those are involving questions. Listen to this, imagine this, or put this in the memory banks.
Yeah.
That's engaging your own. So I won't be surprised those people that you really enjoy. They really are engaging you.
Yeah, and I feel that too. It's true, but I think one of the reasons I like it too is because I want it to be experiential for them, and I sometimes feel that when people answer a question, or if I throw, like for example, when I teach, I used to teach more classes, like I don't teach this so much anymore, but most people used to want to get a mainstream publisher. And so I'd give a class or do a lecture, and I'd say, well, what are some of the horror stories that you've heard about publishing? And everybody would go like, well, the agents don't, you know, they don't respond if you're a first-time writer. And then somebody else would say, well, I knew somebody that, you know, they sent this agent a query letter, and it was like a year and a half before they, you know, heard back. And then I can immediately dialogue and say, well, did you do this? Did you contact that agent? Did you? And then it's like, to me, it gets to a level of, I don't know, it just makes it more real for me to hear their experience. And then they can see like, well, how would...
Well, you know, it's that old Chinese proverb. When you talk at them, they just remember 10%.
Yeah.
But when your audience says and does, they'll remember 90%. And when I go out to my corporate clients, man, I don't want them just to remember 10% of my speech, of my presentation. I think that's both a waste of my time and their time. So what can I do to incorporate an activity or a simple written exercise or whatever, so that I do up that retention level? I want people, my gosh, we're spending this valuable time that this valuable commodity we call time. Let's remember more than just 10%. And my goal is that people remember 90% of my presentation.
Yeah, I bet they do. I like those involvers, like imagine, or how do you?
Well, I said, again, because a lot of people say, well, I'm giving a keynote or an oratory. In other words, I'm stuck behind a lectern and I just have to speak to people and I can't really do, well, again, there's things for them to do. So one thing is imagine this, and then you go into that. That's involving the audience. Or, hey, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this. Or, you know, put this in the memory banks. You're engaging the audience. You're giving them an activity to do. Maybe it's not a physical activity. Maybe it's just up in the mind's eye. But at least they're involving. You're having them do something and really incorporating. And the great thing about that is that when we do get our audience active, guess what? Our message is actually going deeper into their conscious and subconscious. Because if we want to persuade them, if we want them to walk away with our $1 million message, we got to really lower those walls of resistance and, again, engage them, slowly feed our message in so that they get what we're about, so that even though they're not in front of us, they know who and what we're about.
And I want to remind people that your new brand is a sort of $1 million message.
Yes.
It's the $1 million message to you, right?
Exactly.
That was an
To
important, to us, or
Yes.
to the person you're coaching. It's their $1 million message,
Correct.
right? Because a lot of people have used that in so many ways, you know.
Definitely.
But I thought that was an important point. It has to feel like that to you.
Yeah, it's about the center, about the presenter has to feel that their message is worth $1 million. You know, I use that as a euphemism, but again, it should be that valuable to you that you should spend that much time, that much energy, and guess what, that much passion, so that your audience feels the same.
Right. So don't undervalue yourself. That's
Thank you. Yeah,
that's what we're trying to say here. We're going to take a break in a minute, but that's what I think the point. And when I read that, both of the stories we covered this week, that's what I felt, is really appreciate who you are and that you step into your authority and into your expertise and get out there and talk about your business or what you like to do, right?
Definitely.
So we are going to be joined next by Nairubi James, and she really, really does give you a burst of positive energy. She knows how to turn a negative situation into a positive one, and because she's been through some difficult times. So stay tuned. This is Talk Up Your Biz here on LA Talk Live.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
The American Heart Association's Heart Walk is coming. Bring your family, bring your friends, bring your coworkers. Help yourself and those around you to live longer, healthier lives. Form a team today and walk to help the American Heart Association defeat heart disease and stroke, two of the nation's leading killers. For more information, visit heartwalk.org.
Hey everyone, this is Richard Carr, Business Relations Manager for LA Talk Live. Did you know social media produces almost double the marketing leads of trade shows, telemarketing, direct mail, or even pay-per-click ads? And that about 46% of all online users count on social media when making that ever-important purchase decision. Hey, if you feel lost when it comes to social media, Top Tier Media can help you. Top Tier Media specializes in social media management and blogger outreach for beauty, fashion, health, and lifestyle brands. To learn more, go to www.toptiermedia.com. That's www.toptiermedia.com. Top Tier Media, the official social media marketing company of LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network.
Hi, this is Jean Noel Bassior, inviting you to join me for my new show, The Book Beat, Monday evenings at 6:30 p.m. I'll be talking to authors about their latest book so you can find a fantastic read. But more than that, I'll be talking to experts about how you can write your own book and get it published. So tune in on Mondays at 6:30 p.m. exclusively on latalklive.com. And remember, you can catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Today is my day, a brand new beginning.
Hi, and welcome back to Talk Up Your Biz. I'm Jean Noel Bassior with my co-host Maurice Dimino.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes, and you're going to tell us about our next guest, right?
Yes, definitely. Nairubi James, for over a quarter of a century, she's been helping people with their burst of positive energy. With faith, positive thinking, and pressing forward, she's developed a formula for you to live your full life. And I'm so glad to meet you because I am waiting. You know, we were getting ready for the show, and I got that burst of energy. You just walked into the room, and I just feel and I just exuded. So if I may, what got you started in this? I know you had some trials and tribulations. In fact, we talked about one of the questions to ask yourself to be an expert or to have an expertise is, what are those challenges? So I know that you experienced some of those challenges. If you could share some of us that journey of challenge to now expert.
Well, you know, the challenges that I've experienced, what I've learned during my challenges is not about me. It's about reaching out to others. So as I was facing my trials and tribulations, I didn't think about me. I thought about helping others. So that took my mind off of what I was dealing with, but it also helped me to help me. Because when you extend a hand to help somebody else, you automatically help yourself.
So in other words, yeah, I love this expression. You don't stand as tall as when you stoop down to help another.
Exactly.
So and how can we go about? Do we look outside of ourselves? Do we start with our family? How what's the journey? I would love to know that journey.
Well, you first have to begin with yourself.
Okay, all righty.
You know, in order to know what are you capable of doing, what is your weaknesses, what is your strengths, and your weaknesses you build on from your strengths. So in other words, you focus on the positive thinking versus the negative. The more you think about something negative, think about it, the more you become upset.
That's very true, but we tend to, we're kind of conditioned, aren't we, to think about the negative.
Yeah, we are conditioned. That is so true. And see, this is the challenge part. If you want something different, you have to do something different.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I like that. Wow, that's an interesting perspective. How do you mean?
So in other words, for an example, if you want to stop thinking negative, then try to start thinking positive. Something that you don't occur right away. You have to, it takes effort. But once you make that effort, it gets easier and easier, although you're always challenged.
Sure.
But now you've had the practice, so now you're ready.
You kind of build momentum, right?
Yes.
See, because I've heard that, you know, but it's so attributed to different places. You know, if you do the same thing you've been doing, you'll get the same thing you've been getting. And that's where I always get stuck because, see, now intellectually I know this. But to make that shift, okay, and to really do something differently, can you give us a tip? Like, let's say somebody's really kind of drowning in that negativity right now.
Okay.
Now, how are you going to get them out of it?
Okay. Before I answer that question, let me just say this. A burst of positive energy. You first have to think it. So when you start thinking it, you're going to feel it. Ooh, this feels good. And when you start feeling it, you're going to speak it. Oh, I feel. And next thing you know, after you're speaking it, you're going to do something about it. So whatever you're thinking is going to be a reflection of your actions.
So it begins with your thoughts, right?
Yes. So it begins with your thought. And the first thing I would say to help a person who's going through, think about something positive.
So you don't have to think about that negative thing.
Well, the thing is, when you think about something positive right away, and it's like, wait a minute. I mean, it takes you're jilted because it's like, wait a minute. You have to conform to that.
You can't think
You
two
have to
thoughts
work
at you can't think two thoughts at once.
No.
You have
See,
to. Yeah.
that's just like now. And if I say, Jean, I just love the way you wear your hair. It's so beautiful. Then I turn around and say, Maurice, I love your eyes. They seem like they're saying hello in a positive way. But right away, I was able to say something positive to you and meant what I said, and as well as to you. So when you can think about somebody else, guess what? It takes your mind off of you. But you have to understand what comes from you is within you. So what you speak is what you are.
So would you say then our words have power?
Yes, they do.
And how do you mean? Because I've heard so many different variations from Napoleon Hill to Rhonda Byrne of The Secret. You know, whatever you think about, you bring about. And it's the dialogue that you have with yourself that you bring this about. So again, you said think about positive things. For me, the technique that I use is that I think about the birth of my niece, Amanda. So if something happens, I'll think about it. How I got to see her when she was 1 hour old. She's still steaming, and I got to sing happy birthday to her.
Right.
So is it that, or am I cheating myself? Or am I not allowing to feel what's going on? I'm just. There seems to be both sides of the coin here, fighting with each other.
Well, it's not so much as that. It's what you call wherever you are, you're embracing that moment.
Okay.
So let's say for this moment, somebody's out there dealing with a negative. Okay. So as you deal with that negative, search for the positive into what you're dealing with. So in other words, when you're dealing with something negative, there's always something good to think about. So when you think about something good, let's say, for an example, you get up in the morning, oh, I just feel terrible, but I'm going to feel better later. Right away. If you say you're feeling terrible, your body reacts.
But after I have that first cup of coffee, I know I'm going to feel good.
Yeah. And then after you say, okay, let me drink my cup of coffee, I'll know I'm going to feel better. Well, once you drink that cup of coffee, but you've already spoken it. Words have power. So whatever you speak, you feed into, you feel it. So if somebody tell you, you look nice, or if somebody criticize you, wait a minute, what? Me? Now your head is hanging down. Those words have affected you, whether they were negative or positive. And that's what I mean by words have power.
So how do you deal with that? Like, let's say somebody tosses something at you that doesn't feel good. A colleague at work, criticizes you, or you pass somebody to give you a disapproving look. Now, how do you handle that energy when it comes right at you?
Well, when negative come towards me, the first thing I have to realize and know the truth, not to take it personal. Because, see, what you think, you speak. What you speak, of course, the words go out and it attacks or help heal. So when people are saying whatever they're feeling, I can't take it personal because I don't feel that way. That's your opinion. We all are entitled to our own opinions, how we feel, what we think. So the key is not to take other people personal and search yourself. When you search yourself and say, okay, am I that what they're saying that I am? Then if you are, then they have controlled you with their words.
So you have to really know yourself really, really well, right? And how did you get to that point where you do know yourself that well, that you have that surety, you have that confidence?
Well, they say life experience.
Yes.
So as you experience life, you experience people. And see, I'm a people lover. So the point is, I love people, but in order for me to deal with those people, I had to deal with me first.
Sure.
So as I'm dealing with my challenges, I head them face on. Okay, I have to do this, okay? Okay, I do everything that I can do. Now, after I've done everything that I can do, I release it. I leave it alone. Because there's no more than I can do but put a positive twist to it. And see, what helps me to be really positive is my faith. believing
Right.
in someone higher than me.
You have to let it. You have to believe in some a higher power to let it go, right?
Well, for me, I trust in God, and for what's been happening in my life, it's been a boomerang. So as I go throughout my journey, touching people, in other words, with my words, with my smile, with a hug, you know, this way, it's like a ripple effect. You throw a pebble in the water, and the ripples. And as the ripples continues to flow, these are the people's life you're touching. Then after you touch those people, guess what? They're going to touch somebody else. Oh, I've experienced one today, and they'll go into it.
But then it's really what you decide to what you want to pass on.
Yes.
Because if I want to pass on goodness, I practice goodness. So then again, is there a technique? Is there something I could say? I know there's mantras, super mantras, positive affirmations, PMAs, all that. In your sphere, in your world, what have you shared with your audiences?
Well, normally what I share with my audience, as you said earlier, audience participation.
Okay.
Okay, they're going to experience a burst of positive energy. And it all depends on what topic we're talking about. Now, and if we're talking about changing a negative thought into positive thought, there's 4 steps to it. And we go through those 4 steps. For an example, one of the steps would be, in order to change a negative thought into a positive thought, you first have to recognize what you're thinking, what you're feeling. Now, when you recognize what you're thinking, I want to go over there and just, and I'm thinking because I was rejected. Now, the second step is to evaluate it. Is this going to hurt me? Is it going to hurt somebody else? Yes, it's hurting you because you're having these negative thoughts. And we know with negative, here comes the anger. So you want to prevent that from happening. So when you evaluate it, okay, this is not good, you get to the bottom of it, of that thought and that feeling. Then the next step is, what are you going to do about it? Sit there like a lump on a log? No. Think opposite of that negative thought. Think about something positive. Okay, he played on me, he had an affair on me. Well, I guess I wasn't worth him having me. There's somebody better. So the thing is, now after you think about something positive, and now you reach out to somebody else, and it goes on. Then the next step would be the fourth step after focusing on the positive. The last one is release, let it go. Once you release that negative thought, guess what? You can start to embrace your present, because if you don't, it's going to leave you anyway.
I mean, I love that last step of the release. I know so many people that are still holding on to baggage of 10, 20 years ago. And I love what Joel Osteen, in fact, said this past weekend. Some people have so much baggage with them, they could not afford to fly anymore with the extra baggage claim. I mean, it's amazing. So what's another thing that I could do that if to release? That's, for me, that seems, I got the 4 steps. The 3 steps was fine, but that release portion.
The release part.
Yeah.
See, and I'm so glad you asked that, because the point is, if you don't embrace your moment,
Right.
you lose it. And you have to look at it like this. We're now at September the 30th.
Right. Yeah, a little more.
Okay, 2013. Never again will it be this date. However, look where we've been and look where we are now. We're moving towards the end of the year. And look how fast our life has passed us by. The months are now behind us.
Right.
So we're coming to a closure for this year. So if you can reflect and think about the past, all the difference that you've made with your thinking, then you have accomplished. However, it's always a learning process, but the bottom line is this. You have to embrace now. If you don't embrace now, you lose it. So what's really important here, every moment of your life.
Nice. Beautiful.
So staying in the present moment, how do you, any tips about how to do that?
Yes.
More?
When you stay in the present, first of all, you have to think about somebody else. Well, how can you be of service to somebody else? And for number one, you can always give somebody you don't even know a compliment. Or you can tell them something that'll brighten up their day. This guy was wearing a beautiful hat. And I said, oh, I like your brim. He says, wow, really? Oh, my. He didn't even know that was coming. He said, you just don't know what you just did for me. He said, you've made my day. I said, what a pleasure. So the point is, when you can reach out to somebody else and get your mind off of you,
Right.
it will help you so much more. So when you reaching out to somebody else, you're in that moment because you're making a difference in that person's life. And when you make a difference in somebody else, it's back at you. You make a difference in yours. Because you never know how they're going to respond back to you.
I know another difficulty that people go through is change. You know, we fear change and all that. How can I take there's a power to it. In fact, how can I take the power of change and turn around into my greatness?
Wow, I have a whole program on transitioning, and it was for the seniors who was graduating or for co-workers who's going through changes. So when you're talking about change, what happens is you look at the change as an adventure. Okay, this is something different rather than being afraid. Because when you're fearful, fear will stop you in your tracks. You can't get anything done. So when you think of courage, it'll help you break through the fear and enable for you to step out of your comfort zone. Because if we stay in our box, then how will we know what's on the other side of those walls?
Right. I like what you said about this is something different.
Yes.
You know, that's a good way to look at it.
Yes.
Instead of this is something maybe that could harm me, negative or hurtful, or going into anxiety. You know, we only have about a minute left, and I want to make sure that people know how to contact you.
Oh, my. You know, let me first say you can always email me. Because once you email me, I'm putting up my website, then I'll give you the link to the website.
Nice.
So a burst, like the letter A, capital, then the word burst, OPE at yahoo.com. A burst, OPE at yahoo.com.
Beautiful.
Great. So, are you speaking any place we can catch you speaking right now? Or?
Well, actually, I'm being set up so I can speak to a group of youth, at-risk youth,
Okay.
because they're facing challenges. And so speaking with those youth for the school district and helping them to look for the positive versus the negative. And the reason that happened is because a group of teenagers went to the program director, and said, "Can we have Miss James speak for us, please?" So what better way to reach out to our young people, which is our future?
No.
Great.
Well, we got a burst of positive energy
I
here.
did. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I feel
I'm ready to
inspired.
release. That's what I'm ready to do. Definitely.
And can I conclude with this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and normally after I finish my presentation, this is what I tell everyone. You have to first think about it. It's a positive affirmation. You said affirmation. We do a affirmation along with body language, and it goes like this. You making a statement. I am your present. I am powerful. You're powerful in what you think, you're powerful in what you say, and you're powerful in what you do.
Well, Nairobi, you're definitely powerful.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for
Thank
being
you for
here.
having me.
It's wonderful. So, well, if you're at work right now and not feeling as powerful as we all are here, and you're feeling overwhelmed and underpaid and angry and resentful and ready to quit, our next guest, I didn't want to bring us down, but we gotta address some of our audience here who may be feeling those things, and our next guest can definitely help because she is an expert in stress management and corporate wellness. So hold on to your meltdown until Lucia Galante Johnson joins us in the next segment here on Talk Up Your Biz, where we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Starla Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dawn Christie inviting you to join me every Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, for my all-new show, The Dawn Christie Show. Join me as I discuss love, spiritual readings, your purpose, why am I born, what am I here to do. So don't forget to tune in The Dawn Christie Show at 1 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV, reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Today is my day.
Hi, and welcome back to Talk Up Your Biz. I'm Jean Noel Bassior with my co-host here, Maurice Domino.
Pleasure to be here.
And we have a special guest this segment.
Yes.
She is Lucia Galante Johnson, and you are a stress management expert and corporate wellness consultant.
Correct.
Who provides workshops, classes, and one-on-one services on how to reduce stress quickly and easily. And you're still using techniques from the East. I know you've rebranded.
Correct.
Right. We're going to talk about that, which you combine for the workplace, things like mindfulness, meditation, and movement to provide health and wellness practices for the workplace, for corporations, for businesses, right? That's kind of your specialty?
That's correct.
Great. And I checked out your new website, which is, tell me
Relax
again.
Inc. Now.
Right.
.com. Relax Inc. Now.
I like that.
Yeah.
I am Relaxed Inc. No, sorry. I'm just borrowing from Narubi. Yes, now. Sorry.
Yeah, because you've been on the show before, actually, and we know that you use like Reiki techniques and things like that.
Correct.
But you're kind of like, are you stressing the Western element of it? I mean, putting like in a package that seems more businessy? Or?
Sure, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. My original company was called the Reiki Center of California, and I do still have staff that goes out into the communities working with nonprofits, the hospital communities, etc., bringing stress management tools to people going through more challenging journeys such as cancer, serious illness, sometimes accidents, etc. But what started to happen as I continued to use this work, I began to study other ways of looking at the body-mind-spirit connection and how that could provide service to the business community, because actually that's my community. You started off the show asking, take a look at where we began our journey. My journey started in Washington, D.C. I used to work as a legislative aide for many, many years, worked on presidential campaigns, worked on local campaigns, and worked for members of Congress.
Talk about stress.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wished I had had a few of these tools that I incorporate today during that time. Because part of the stress that happened when I worked in Washington was not so much the day-to-day activities, which of course can be rather demanding. It was the pace and the need to be able to juggle not just 10 balls in the air, more like 20, sometimes 30, depending on what was going on at the time. Then I decided, after falling off of a sound truck and injuring my back, that I needed to move into a different field. And so I went into corporate America, working for a Fortune 500, doing sales and marketing, where they tell me one week, yes, you hit your million quota, but now let's make it 1.2 million. So, needless to say, quite a bit of the chapter of my earlier years were centered around very demanding careers in which tools to help one get centered, quiet, and a little more balanced before moving on to the next task wasn't even present. As a matter of fact, the dialogue I use today, we're in a wonderful time and place where people are much more open. And because the globe is getting smaller and our communication is becoming more vast, understanding techniques from our brothers and sisters from other parts of the world, such as the East, are becoming part of our everyday dialogue. And so what I did is I put together a package that incorporated some slight forms of Tai Chi, Qigong, Reiki, meditation, of course, and some other mindfulness movements.
And these can be done some of these I know can be done at your desk.
Correct.
Right? So you can take these are things that really work like while you're at the job, right?
Correct. What I decided to do was I created a program called the HPH Factor. And this is based on a Harvard study that said if you are happy at work, you're most likely to be productive and therefore healthy, and you'll want to continue to work. Yes, there was a study that concluded this. But what was valuable about that study is I think it brought to the forefront for the business community that incorporating some kind of preventative care program that was easy, that was quick to implement, and that was something that everyone could use became of value. And so I decided to shift my focus into that world because more and more individuals are not necessarily finding the time to run off to the gym or to join classes, say, at the local medical centers, and they need to find some kind of relief fairly quickly while they're on the job.
And I'm curious, I've heard this a lot. I do a lot of corporate speaking, and the buzzwords is the stress management.
Correct.
And not only that, you bring programs, full programs to corporations, and we hear a whole breadth of medical centers and all that. I have to ask the question, what's going on out there? What is going on in the work environment that stress management? I mean, it's like the new buzzword out there. What's going on?
I think what's starting to happen, Maurice, is that more and more corporations are realizing that because we're able to communicate within nanoseconds of each other, the data that individuals are receiving throughout the day in their job is so much faster, quicker, and the demand for some kind of response or problem resolution is even higher and quicker than it was before.
So the odds are the odds are higher.
Correct.
Yeah. So I have to deliver on a dime as opposed to a quarter. A little bit time ways ago.
Correct.
So continue.
Correct. I used to laugh. I also had for a while my own public relations firm, and we were the old days where we'd call someone and they would send a fellow on a bicycle to pick up our package, put it together, and cycle it back to the newspaper.
Right.
Now there's no such thing. You just hit send, and over the wires it's there in a heartbeat. So I think what's starting to happen is more and more corporate types are beginning to realize that a big percentage of their employees are missing work due to stress-related ailments. And so it really serves them if they can incorporate some type of preventive care program in which they can actually involve their staff, employees, management, and something that will help them to reduce stress immediately on the job. Simple things like remembering to breathe. Most people, when they're stressed out, they hold their breath. And we're human beings, we need to breathe in order to live. And learning to even just stylize your breathing becomes very important. The second is doing some kind of physical contact with the body. If you actually take a moment and place your hands on your heart as well as on your center of your being or your tummy area,
all right,
and just take a deep breath.
I hope you're doing this at home too, ladies. Are you doing it, Ness? All right, okay, everybody.
Stay zen. Doing that just for one moment shifts the brain from that moment of being very frantic to a rather calming place.
And the key word there was focus, because I'm shifting my focus from that frantic pace, something that's due in a nanosecond. Now I'm focusing on my breath, which I should be doing.
Yes.
And now I'm putting my attention elsewhere.
Correct.
Right.
And what you're literally doing is taking your hands and by placing them on the body, you've now immediately created a chemical shift in the brain because now your hands and your body are focusing on this moment, on being placed on the body rather than on the particular objective or worrisome situation that you might have been in.
Well, just taking your hands off your computer keyboard.
Yes.
I mean, you're breaking the cycle.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
yes.
I think that interrupting, you know what I mean? Like isn't that in itself kind of helps?
Absolutely. That's a great example. Great example. Very often I'll go into a company and the first question I'll ask the group is, so who took a lunch break? And everybody will raise their hand. And I said, well, who took a lunch break away from the desk? A few hands go down. Yes. Who took a lunch break away from the computer? More hands go down. Who actually took a walk? Even more hands. And then who actually went somewhere and sat down to dine?
You know, it is amazing because I did hear a stat that so many people eat at their desks. It was
Yes.
unbelievable. You know, it's almost like there are no more real lunch breaks. And when you guys were talking about the corporate culture, it seems also like the better you do, well, then the more they ask you to do.
Right.
Correct. Correct. It's interesting. What is that expression? You're never given what you can't handle. But the difficulty in that sometimes is yes, usually very high achieving, business oriented people who are successful in their business tend to always say yes to anything that comes their way. I think the challenge is educating them that it's okay also to say no. It's okay to say, I can get back to that in a moment. It's okay to set very healthy boundaries in which you're still accomplishing what needs to happen for the company, for the firm, for your staff, but at the same time remembering to respect your own space.
Yeah, otherwise it's like you're never given what you can what you can't handle until you collapse.
Correct. Correct.
That's
What
the
is that?
moment at
Like the
which-
Peter
yeah.
principle, I believe they say.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know.
You rise to
Yeah.
your own mediocrity. Yes.
That's right. That's
Unbelievable.
right.
Because we all we feel we should take on more and more and more.
Absolutely.
And, you know, the stress, I guess, builds until you don't take care of yourself. And I think most of us, you know, many of us are caught in that.
I think a big part of it was back in the 80s, I know, when I was doing more of the corporate scene in my younger days. But part of the culture then was the more you do, the more you would get recognized, or so we thought. The faster you do it, the better achievements you're going to accomplish. But what has happened to a lot of my generation is there's high levels of burnout, even at the management level. Even when they accomplish grabbing that brass ring or reaching the top of the top, so many now are either moving into alternative ways of handling work, leaving corporate structures and embracing other ways of finding employment, such as public speaking, or are trying to retire early because the stress factor is so high that they can't even take care of themselves anymore.
They're starting to realize there is so much burnout among baby boomers, isn't there?
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so when I saw the study at Harvard, known as the happiness factor, I realized that if there was a way to incorporate healthcare practices that invited individuals at the workplace to not only come together as a group, because when you do things together in a group, since we are a tribal people, you actually learn to interact very differently than you would via computer, via email, or just merely over the phone. The second is they noticed that as staff was starting to become healthier in the workplace, they started to become more productive. They started to enjoy coming to work. There were other factors that played a role in that, such as appreciating their gifts when they come to the table, having management sit and actually listen to, various suggestions from support workers. But not only that, as productivity started to increase, they noticed the employees were happier about work. Fewer and fewer employees started to call in ill. They started to embrace their work with a vigor that they didn't have before. And of course, as a result, were interacting with their colleagues much differently than they did when they were more pushed, and not setting those healthy boundaries or finding tools at their desk to take care of themselves. As a matter of fact, here's another tool. It's so simple. I use this with senior citizens as well as corporate and small children. All you have to do is just take your arms and reach them up to the sky. And that's it. Clasp them, turn them up.
Oh, yeah.
You'll feel this crack. Feels good. Feels good, doesn't it? I know. And then back down. And that's it. Just by doing that, you've actually opened up the oxygen to your brain because you've just opened up your chest. You've opened up everything that you need in your lungs to expand. And so as a result, you've also opened up your brain because there's more oxygen entering in there. Not only that, your shoulders feel so good because my chiropractor says he will be in business for a long time because we have gone from upright man to bending over due to our numerous hours in front of the computer.
Well, I think we forget we have bodies.
Yes.
When we're at work.
Yes.
Sometimes, I mean, go to the gym, work out, you have to totally shift gears. But, how many people really do movements like that? So that's great. When you go into corporations and business and offices, small businesses, so do you give them like these exercises, and do you come back more than once? Do you monitor them, or how?
That's a great question. We've just started to enter on, working with HR departments. That's my first goal, is sitting down with them, asking what are the needs of their corporations and what works. Initially, what I have been doing is, thanks to Speaker Services, we'll throw a plug there to Susan and to Jean Noel, I've been doing more of the speaking circuit first, talking to companies such as delivery companies. I've talked to a group of accountants, obviously the medical community, because helping those that are more used to Western philosophy and educating them a little bit more about some Eastern philosophy has been quite useful.
And by using Speaker Services and reaching out to people via speaking, has that opened up your client list? Has that been of assistance as opposed to a challenge?
Yes, no, that's a great question.
Yeah.
It absolutely has. I think what's helped is because we have gone from a group that mainly catered towards nonprofits and are trying now also to be a service to the corporate America, being with an organization like a Speaker Services, I think raises the bar. They obviously take a peek at the site, see that most speakers on there have a long line of credentialing, a long list of speaking experience, and so as a result, I think makes corporations more comfortable about bringing you on board. As a matter of fact, this weekend I'm going to be speaking to a large group of mental health professionals in the Latino community about the importance of self-care, because the first thing that the woman who contacted me said is, yes, we're out there helping so many people with mental health challenges, but we're forgetting to take care of ourselves.
Right. Do you want to say something about that? Because there are people listening who, are taking care of even relatives or have some kind of responsibility like that. What do you tell people who are in that situation? What is something they can do?
Great. Yes, because I'm a big believer in it has to work with your day-to-day activities. There are a lot of people who do love going to the gym, but most people don't have the time to necessarily get out of the house and formally go there. So what I like to share with people, especially if they're caregivers, is first of all, remember to take, even if it's just 3 to 5 minutes throughout the day, for yourself. Remember to actually sit down and enjoy your meal. If you cannot remember what you ate at lunch and it's only 2 o'clock, then you need to relook at your priorities about what's going on with your food.
Okay, I failed that one.
I have
Also,
me too. So I want to ask you something about that. So because a lot of us say, I should take the 3 to 5 minutes. It's only 3 to 5 minutes.
Right.
Then the next thought is, as our previous guest would say, well, watch our thoughts here, I don't have it. I don't have it because I'm just so stressed out right now for time. So is that, what do you do then?
That's the biggest thing that I get from everyone. Yeah. I always tell them, start off by trying, because it's by doing over and over and taking habit and time that you will find those 3 to 5 minutes. Second, probably the most important part is boundaries. Telling your boss, telling your client if you're a caregiver, sharing with your family. I have to practice this at home. I have a teen and a tween. This is my time right now. I am hungry. I need to sit down and eat. Being very clear at what you need and letting them know I'm not taking 2 hours. I only need 5, 10, 15 minutes. And when I'm done, I can come back and give you undivided attention. And isn't that better, especially if you're working in the corporate culture, to take time out for yourself and then give your project, your client, your boss that undivided attention that he or she deserves, rather than just stumbling through it. And if you're in that meeting and you're hungry, you're not thinking of that project. You're thinking, when can I get out and go get my Subway sandwich? When can I, go buy my salad? See, even the staff here is laughing.
Yeah, our
because
engineer
it's true.
is like,
Yeah, because he's starving. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like right now, you want to go, right? Hold on to the end of the show.
Yeah, really. Wait, we're not done yet.
But the more that we remember to provide service to ourselves, the more the stress factor starts to go down. And even more importantly, as I share with all these groups, we're not talking about remove stress. I mean, life has its mountains and its valleys. That's life. Right. What we're talking about is how you respond to your stress and how you understand what it is that pushes those stress buttons. If you're a person that procrastinates and has to have a project done on Friday and it is 11 o'clock Friday and it's due at 2 o'clock, that's probably going to add a little more stress to your life, especially if you knew about the project at the beginning of the week.
Well, of course you did.
Of course. But other times there are things that come at you out of nowhere, and that, of course, is a very different response. But if you're in an industry where you know that's part of your reality, then it becomes even more important to take time out of your day to make sure that you're providing self-care. Not only does it help to reduce the stress and how you respond to it, but it recharges you. And all of a sudden, that switch from having a healthy, productive, and happy employee or staff member really reaches its high.
Yeah. Well, this, and I'm sure that as the momentum builds, as you experience it, and you make it real for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. How
You're
can
welcome.
people get in touch with you?
Oh, thank you for asking. Yes, our new website is called Relax Inc. Now. So that's RELAXINC now.com, and on there you will see also little snippets of some speaking engagements we've done in the area, from the Remedy Farm to a few other medical centers, as well as some corporations such as some delivery companies and accountants.
RelaxInc.com.
Relax Inc. Now.
Now. That's right. RelaxIncNow.com.
Now.
Now, not tomorrow.
Yeah.
I
And
love
it's
it.
it's a really beautiful website. I really have to compliment you. When you go there,
Thank you.
really you don't feel stressful when you go to this website. You feel relaxed and calm, and it's very easy to navigate. So it's a great site.
Thank you. And for corporate folks, we also have a lot of fun. So if you're looking for entertainment as well as stress relief, give me a call.
Nice.
So thanks so much to our two
Beautiful.
guests today. First, we had Nairobi James in our last segment, and Lucia Galante Johnson here, and our co-host Maurice Domino.
Always
and
a
as
pleasure.
Always, I really want to shout out to Susan Levin, who books these amazing guests for this show and for my show, which follows, The Book Beat. And Susan has lined up these guests, and they are just, it always amazes me, each one, they just are all wonderful. So, produced by Susan Levin, speakerservices.com, and this is Talk Up Your Biz. Stay tuned for The Book Beat to follow in 30 minutes here at LA Talk Live, where we are more than just talk.
And making a difference. Ready to change the world that I see. 'Cause I have a dream. True love is evergreen. I know it's not too late. Gonna grow some love today. Planting a seed to build a world closer to heaven. Planting a seed in my soul. Yeah, I'm watching it grow. If you believe, then we'll make it together. Planting a seed in my soul. Our beauty will show. And when everything is going wrong, and you feel like giving up, dance in the moonlight.
Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. You're tuned in to LA Talk Live, where we're more than just talk.